But first, let's check in with the news issues of the week. Our normal guest at this time, Will Richmond, is unavailable, enjoying a well-deserved week off. But we got the boss this week. We're pleased to be joined by the editor-in-chief of the Herald News, Lynn Sullivan. Lynn, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you filling in.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You know, we're going to deviate a little bit on what we normally do on the show. Will and I normally talk about some of the local issues that are in the paper this week. But I actually want to talk about a topic that's sort of bigger than this in some way. Those of you who are watching and have followed news, have followed national news, have followed, hopefully with some great interest, the adversarial relationship between President Trump and the press. The president has consistently called the press fake news, specifically those covering him on a national basis. He also called the press the enemy of the people. Well, this week, specifically today, dozens of newspapers and news organizations across the country, including the Herald News, took the opportunity on their editorial page to sort of talk about the fact that the news media is not the enemy of the people, but actually a very important cog in our democracy. And I know, Lynn, the Herald News took part in that today with their headline, "We're not the enemy." How did the Herald News decide to take part in this initiative?
Well, we saw last week the Globe's call for newspapers to join in, and several on my management team felt pretty strongly that we should. And then, we're part of a much bigger company, and there were several conversations back and forth among editors, different people weighing in, and there were some that felt strongly that we should take part, and some that thought that maybe this was just going to play into his idea that we all are ganging up on him or something like that. So it was absolutely our own decision to join in. Nobody was forced to do anything, but we thought it was important. We've had issues even locally where people have said, fake news, or even local officials have called us out on their Facebook page or something like that, claiming that we're lying or we're making stuff up or whatever. So we thought, it's probably best to remind people we're not out to get anybody. We're just out to figure out what the truth is and report it for our readers. So,
do you hear at all, Lynn, that for a paper like the Herald News, which is extremely local, servicing, greater Fall River area, that there's a different view of your work, the Herald's work, compared to the national media, New York Times, Washington Post, and CNN and the like? Is there a different perception, like probably that I think a lot more people are willing to support local media than they would be in some ways some of the national institutions? Yeah,
I mean, when you even think about President Trump, I mean, he's not calling out the Herald News for coverage of our planning board or something like that. But it does, that sort of attitude that we're out to get people or that we have an agenda or something, it does trickle down to us. And, friends, I was out to dinner one night recently with my college roommates, and they have all different careers, and they were kind of surprised to hear that it does actually affect us locally, where, I had a reporter, she was at a school doing a cute little feature about some little thing that they were doing at the school, and as she's walking out, a teacher was just sitting on the curb and just sort of muttered fake news, and I'm like, wow, we weren't even doing anything controversial in any way. It was just a nice little story. So we definitely hear it, unfortunately. So while we're not reporting on day-to-day stuff that President Trump is doing, there are controversial things sometimes that we report on that people may not like. So,
it's interesting in the piece today. You point out that results of a poll from Quinnipiac and I believe it's Ipsos. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That show that 26% of Americans and 51% of Republicans agree with President Trump that the media is their enemy. And also another 26% of those Republicans feel that the president should have the power to shut down media outlets. And just hearing those numbers, it's extremely sobering to go along with the fact of the national press being attacked during presidential rallies across the country. And of course, we all know what happened at the Capitol Gazette in Annapolis back in June, where someone who had a grudge walked into the newsroom and killed 5 people.
Yeah.
Are these types of discussions in terms of even like security, are they happening even locally as well?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I have staff that's scared, and I don't blame them.
Mm.
The term "enemy of the people" is pretty strong language,
Right.
and you sort of have to imagine, what if he was saying this about another profession? Say he was saying about police officers or firefighters or nurses or something like that, or teachers. People
Right.
would be up in arms. And from our perspective, I mean, it's our job. It's just what we do for a living, and it's very difficult to sort of have to come and face my staff who's scared, saying, could something awful happen here in Fall River if somebody just gets some crazy idea in their head that we've treated them unfairly or something. So when you call us the enemy of the people, or you just throw around terms like that sort of willy-nilly, it's hard to look at us as regular people and just think of us as a thing. And we live here too. We're in this community.
Right.
We work here. We care about this community. So I mean, we're regular people just doing our job. So
I know one of the things that may be disheartening is the fact that so many people across the country, regardless of your party affiliation, looks at the president of our country as someone who should be respected and revered, and has been the case through the first 44 presidents of the United States. Some will say that our 45th president is doing something completely different. I wonder how much, and this isn't a question, your opinion, how much of this is people are listening to the commander-in-chief and there's still some respect for the office, and how that individual's comments are still somewhat should be respected, and that carries on to how people think. I don't know.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's the president, so what you'd think, imagine what he's saying does carry some weight no matter what. And to be fair, I live here too. I want President Trump to do a good job. I don't have anything personally against him or anything like that. So, and also, to be fair, he's not the first to criticize the press. I mean,
of course
even the Obama administration was a little press unfriendly. And throughout the years, all presidents haven't been happy all the time with coverage. And I think that's the important thing to remember here. When he's saying that we're the enemy of the people or that it's fake news, it's generally stories that are unfavorable to him. He likes stories that are favorable to him. So you can't have it both ways.
Well, I guess in some respects, as we wrap up here, is the old adage is that no matter who's in office, be it a president, a governor, a mayor, a city council, that if there are some people who are dissatisfied with your work as a journalist, then I guess you're in some ways fair, because it's not just picking on one individual, you're picking on, I'm putting my air quotes up here, if you will, against the, getting out the truth. So I guess in some ways we're doing our job, right? If some people are questioning our standards in that way.
Right. If we've made people uncomfortable,
right?
Why are you so upset? If you didn't do anything wrong, then you have nothing to be upset about.
Right.
At the same time, I would say, we're fair game too, and people will call and correct us, and we will publicly correct mistakes. We will apologize if we screw something up. That's not a problem, and I'm not afraid of that. It makes us better when somebody points out errors. Well, but just like I said, we're just doing our job.
Absolutely. Definitely a fascinating discussion. Again, I invite everyone to check out the Herald News today or online. The editorial is still up there. It's entitled Our View, We're Not the Enemy. Lynn Sullivan, thanks for joining us. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.